A wealthy white woman humiliates a young black waitress at a prestigious restaurant. But in just a moment, she realizes too late who is behind the scenes. The unexpected turn of events reveals consequences she could have never anticipated. Can she redeem herself for her actions? Or has she lost more than she imagined? Before we dive into this story, feel free to leave a comment about where you're watching from. And do not forget to hit the subscribe button to support us. Victoria Anderson was a well-known businesswoman in the industry, admired for her ability to build and manage a business empire from scratch. Coming from a modest background, Victoria overcame numerous challenges to become the founder and CEO of Anderson Group, a multinational corporation specializing in technology and real estate. With her confident demeanor, sophisticated attire and calm composure, she always attracted attention whenever she appeared at major events. Victoria's life was not only filled with professional success, but also luxury. She owned a lavish mansion on a hill, indulged in luxurious travels, and had a dedicated staff to handle every detail of her daily life. Every morning, she woke up in a bedroom with large glass windows, overlooking the cityscape, enjoying a cup of coffee brewed exactly to her taste, and savoring the peaceful atmosphere before diving into a busy work day. Victoria took great pride in her journey to her success was the result of hard work and determination, but also the battle to earn respect and power. Every day she faced important meetings, negotiated multi-million-dollar deals, and led a corporation constantly challenged by the global market. This made her increasingly cold and decisive in all her decisions. One day, after successfully signing a strategic partnership deal with a leading tech company, Victoria felt proud and excited. This deal promised to elevate Anderson Group to new heights, solidifying her position in the international market. To celebrate, she called her close-knit group of friends and decided to organize a dinner at one of the city's most luxurious restaurants, where she was a regular and always warmly welcomed. "Hello, ladies," Victoria said on the phone, her voice full of pride. "Let's meet at Le Prestige tonight. I have good news to share." Her friends, also successful women in various fields, immediately agreed to them. Victoria was a symbol of power and independence that everyone admired. Victoria hung up a small smile playing on her lips as she imagined the upcoming extravagant dinner. This would be her chance to flaunt her new success and showcase the powerful lifestyle she had worked so hard to achieve. However, Victoria had no idea that the evening would not go as planned, and an unexpected event would forever change her outlook on life and success. A sleek black limousine pulled up in front of the Prestige, and as the door opened, Victoria stepped out with confidence and pride. The city lights reflected off her designer dress, drawing glances from everyone nearby. Le Prestige was not just a fancy dining spot, but a symbol of the class and success Victoria had painstakingly built over the years. With each step, her expensive heels clicked against the marble floor, affirming her status. "Good evening, Miss Anderson." The restaurant manager quickly appeared, bowing respectfully. "Your usual table is ready." Victoria nodded, saying nothing more, but her lips curled into a self-satisfied smile. She was led to her favorite table, located at the center of the restaurant, where all other patrons could witness her presence. From there, she could admire the elegant space with its warm, golden lights and perfectly set crystal glasses. As soon as she sat down, Victoria glanced around, enjoying the feeling of being the center of attention. Soon her close friends also arrived, all successful and wealthy women, each dressed in luxurious outfits, and full of admiration when they saw Victoria. The conversation quickly became lively, with laughter and compliments about Victoria's latest success, a deal she had just signed that would take her company to new heights. Amid the toast, a young waitress named Hannah approached the table with a calm demeanor and a gentle smile. Dressed in a simple black and white uniform, Hannah's most remarkable feature was her friendly and joyful expression. A student working part-time to cover her tuition, Hannah always tried to demonstrate professionalism and dedication in every small gesture. "Good evening, ladies," Hannah greeted softly, showing no hesitation in front of such prestigious guests. "Can I assist you with the menu? Or would you like more time to look it over?" Victoria looked up, her cold gaze sweeping over Hannah. She quickly sized up the plain uniform, simple black shoes, and the apron tied around Hannah's waist. In that brief moment, the stark difference in their statuses flashed in Victoria's mind. She let out a dismissive chuckle, raising her eyebrows, as if surprised by Hannah's audacity in addressing her and her friends. "We do not need the menu," Victoria said with a voice full of contempt. "Just bring us the most expensive bottle of wine you have, and be quick about it. Do not keep us waiting." Victoria's friends giggled silently, agreeing with her sarcasm. To them, Victoria's behavior was nothing out of the ordinary. In their world, servers like Hannah were mere shadows, unworthy of attention. But despite feeling the disdain in Victoria's words and gaze, Hannah maintained her professional smile and gave a slight nod. "Of course, Mom. I'll bring it right away," Hannah replied, her voice steady, though she felt a little uneasy inside. As Hannah walked away, Victoria turned back to her conversation, completely ignoring the young server. To her, Hannah was just a faceless tool to fulfill her needs. Victoria gave no thought to Hannah's feelings or thoughts, because in her eyes, people like Hannah held no real value in society. But what Victoria did not know was that Hannah was not just any ordinary waitress. She was not working at the restaurant just to make ends meet, but because of her passion for the hospitality industry. More importantly, Hannah was the daughter of Laura Brown, the owner of Lee Prestige. Hannah was not just gaining practical experience. She was preparing to carry on the family legacy. It was her love for the business and her pride in her family's tradition that kept her going, no matter the disrespect she faced from customers like Victoria. While Victoria and her friends continued to discuss luxury vacations and multi-million-dollar deals, Hannah returned with an expensive bottle of wine. She carefully set the glasses in front of each person with the utmost professionalism. But once again Victoria's gaze was cold and dismissive. "Thank you, but next time be faster," Victoria said, not hesitating to criticize Hannah in front of everyone. "I do not have all night to wait for you." Victoria's friends laughed again and once more. Hannah felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment, but she kept her composure, trying not to let Victoria's words shake her. She bowed her head and left the table, her only desire being to finish her work and escape Victoria's sharp gaze. But little did she know that the powerful woman would soon face a lesson she never expected, one about humility and kindness, taught by the very person she had belittled, Hannah. When Hannah returned with a tray of food for dinner, Victoria was ready with more cruel remarks. Her friends began chatting about extravagant trips, designer bags and art auctions, all to flaunt their social status. Every word was laced with arrogance and disdain for those not on their level. As Hannah placed the dishes on the table, she maintained her professional smile, but Victoria's eyes quickly scrutinized her from head to toe, not missing the opportunity to assert her power. Victoria spoke with a mocking tone. "It's funny to think that a young girl like you has to stand here, doing such a lowly job. Do you ever think you could do something more? Or is your biggest dream to always serve others?" Victoria's sharp words made the air around the table heavy. Her friends laughed along, creating an uncomfortable atmosphere. Hannah wavered for a moment, but tried to stay composed, knowing that Victoria's words were aimed directly at her dignity. She stood tall, offering a slight smile to Victoria, her voice calm yet firm. "Ma'am, this job is part of my learning process. I'm gaining experience to understand every aspect of the restaurant business, from service to management." Victoria interrupted with a sneer. "I suppose you're dreaming of opening some little cafe. I suppose you're dreaming of opening some little cafe. Are not you so naive? Please do not tell me about your small, meaningless dreams." One of Victoria's friends chimed in, her tone humorous but full of malice. "She'll probably serve drinks in plastic cups and call it fine dining." Laughter spread across the table, echoing in the elegant restaurant. Hannah tried to suppress her emotions, but the sense of humiliation rose within her. Yet she stood firm, keeping the professionalism she had worked so hard to cultivate. Hannah responded gently, "I understand, ma'am. If you need more time to look over the menu, or have any other requests, I'm always here to assist." Victoria waved her hand dismissively, as if shooing away a fly. "Bring another bottle of wine, and do not spill it. I do not want to deal with your clumsiness." Hannah bowed her head and walked away. But as she did, Victoria could not resist, throwing in more hurtful remarks, her voice loud enough for everyone around to hear. "It's shocking they hire people like her to work at a place like Prestige. It really lowers the standards." Laughter erupted again from Victoria's table. But as they laughed, other patrons in the restaurant began to notice the scene. Some looked at Victoria with surprise, even confusion at her cold and disdainful attitude. But Victoria either did not notice or did not care. In her mind, Hannah and people like her were nothing more than tools. When Hannah returned with the new bottle of wine, her eyes had grown colder. She no longer smiled, but still maintained her professional demeanor. She placed the bottle on the table and prepared to pour. But before she could do anything, Victoria continued her insults, this time aiming straight at Hannah's pride. "Have you ever thought about doing something better for yourself, or are you content with being someone who will always serve others?" Those words struck hard at Hannah's sense of self-worth, making her feel exposed in front of the entire restaurant. But she remained calm, her voice steady. "I'm working hard to learn and grow, Mom. Every job has its own value." But Victoria did not stop. She smirked coldly and said, "Value in this world? The only value is success and money. And clearly you have neither." Hannah bowed her head, picked up the tray, and walked away without saying another word. She felt her pride deeply wounded. But deep inside she knew her worth was not tied to Victoria's cruel words. Hannah headed straight to the kitchen, trying to regain her composure in a moment of silence. As she entered the kitchen, an unexpected presence awaited Victoria outside. Laura Brown, the owner of Prestige and Hannah's mother, had overheard everything that had transpired. Laura Brown, the founder and owner of Prestige, was not only a successful woman, but also incredibly sharp. She was a strong figure who had risen from humble beginnings to build one of the city's most prestigious restaurants. To Laura, Prestige was not just a business. It was the result of a lifetime of hard work, and she was immensely proud of it. But what made Laura prouder than anything was her daughter Hannah, the one who would inherit this legacy and carry on the family's tradition. As Laura entered the dining area, she could immediately sense the tension in the air. From a distance, she could hear the mocking laughter coming from Victoria's table. One of the staff had quietly informed Laura of the incident between Victoria and Hannah, making her feel the need to step in. She could not accept this level of disrespect, especially not toward her staff, and even worse, toward her own daughter. Laura calmly approached Victoria's table, her eyes radiating determination and strength. From afar, Victoria was still laughing and chatting smugly with her friends, unaware of the confrontation looming ahead. When Laura stopped beside the table, Victoria looked up, a flicker of surprise crossing her face as she recognized the woman standing before her. "Good evening, Miss Anderson," Laura said, her voice calm but full of authority. "I understand you had some complaints about the service. Tonight, is there something I can help you with?" Victoria, always confident and arrogant, quickly regained her usual composure. She leaned forward, trying to maintain her familiar sarcastic smile, believing she still had control of the situation. "Oh, I would not call it a complaint," she said, her voice laced with mockery. "I just think a high-class restaurant like this should have higher standards for its staff. That girl Hannah, right, seems to lack basic skills." Victoria's sharp words made her friends chuckle, but Laura remained unfazed. She kept her face calm, but inside she felt furious. Laura knew that Victoria was not just insulting an employee. She was insulting her daughter, someone Laura had raised and taught with all the love and hope in the world. "You know," Laura began, her voice gentle but firm, "the waitress you're referring to is my daughter, Hannah Brown." The space around them seemed to freeze for a moment. Victoria's eyes widened, shock and disbelief clear on her face. She glanced at her friends, who were equally stunned. Their mocking laughter disappeared, instantly replaced by an awkward silence. Tension hung thickly in the air, and Victoria suddenly found it hard to breathe. "Your daughter," Victoria stammered, unable to believe what she had just heard. The self-satisfaction she had earlier completely vanished, replaced by confusion and embarrassment. She had no idea that the person she had been mocking all evening was directly connected to the restaurant's owner, the very person she had been trying to impress all along. Laura nodded, her eyes remaining cold and steady as she looked directly at Victoria. "That's right, Hannah is not just a waitress. She's my daughter and is learning every aspect of this business to eventually take it over, from serving to managing. My daughter is preparing to carry on the legacy our family has built." Victoria sat frozen, unable to speak. Feelings of confusion and guilt began to flood her mind. Throughout the evening, she had used belittling words to demean Hannah in front of everyone, not knowing that she was insulting the heir to a business she deeply respected. Victoria, who always prided herself on being able to read situations and control everything, now felt weaker and more vulnerable than ever before. "Mom, I did not know Victoria stammered, her eyes filled with regret, as she tried to find an explanation. "I did not know she was your daughter." Laura's voice remained calm but stern. "The question here is, would that have changed how you treated Hannah? If she were not my daughter, would you have acted any differently? Is a person's value only based on their status or title?" Laura's question cut like a sharp blade through Victoria's pride. She felt a deep sense of shame and confusion, realizing the painful truth about her attitude. In that moment, Victoria had no response, no way to justify her behavior. She understood that, regardless of whether Hannah was Laura's daughter or not, she had no right to demean anyone. The entire restaurant was silent, with all eyes on Victoria, waiting to see her reaction. Her usual arrogance and self-assurance had completely vanished. She lowered her head, feeling smaller and more embarrassed than ever before. Laura stared directly at Victoria, her eyes betraying her disappointment. "I think you need to reconsider how you treat people. A business person is not just judged by their success or wealth, but by how they treat those around them. And your behavior tonight speaks volumes about who you really are." Victoria felt like she had been backed into a corner, with no reasonable excuse left to offer. She sat there saying nothing more, feeling as though all the confidence and power she once possessed had slipped away. Laura turned to walk away, but before leaving she said one final thing. "I'll have to reconsider whether we should continue working with someone who does not know how to respect others. Have a good evening." Victoria sat there, completely stunned by what had just happened. She realized that her words and actions had not just cost her her dignity in front of everyone, but could also ruin the business opportunity she had been hoping for. The evening she had anticipated as a celebration of success had turned into a humiliating and painful failure. Victoria never imagined that in just one evening, everything she had prided herself on, her confidence, power and control, could crumble so quickly. And the most painful part was knowing she was entirely to blame. As Laura left, Victoria remained at the table, her heart heavy with shame and regret. The space around her suddenly felt foreign and uncomfortable. Her friends, who had laughed and joked with her all evening, now sat in silence, awkward and unsure. They did not know what to say to comfort Victoria, nor did they dare address her behavior. A heavy atmosphere settled over the table. Victoria tried to maintain a semblance of calm. She picked up her wine glass, but her trembling hand caused the wine to spill. She felt as though all eyes in the restaurant were on her, not with admiration as she was used to, but with surprise and judgment. The feeling of being judged was something Victoria was not familiar with. She had always been the one on top, the one respected and revered. But tonight everything had been turned upside down. "I think I should go," Victoria whispered, her voice dry. She stood up from the table, trying to hold on to what little dignity she had left. But her legs felt shaky from the overwhelming sense of shame. Her friends quickly stood as well, but no one said a word, only nodding in silent agreement. There was no more laughter, no more teasing as there had been just minutes earlier. Only awkwardness now lingered. As Victoria stepped out of the restaurant, the cool evening air of the city hit her face, but instead of calming her chaotic thoughts, it only made her feel more empty. She found her car, opened the door, and sat down, slamming it shut as if trying to lock herself away from the outside world. Guilt and regret washed over her. Victoria rested her head against the seat, closing her eyes for a few moments, trying to shake off the intense feeling of shame. She thought about everything that had just happened, about how she had treated Hannah with such disdain and cruelty, and about the painful truth she discovered, that Hannah was not just a server, but the daughter of Laura Brown, someone she had always admired. But what troubled Victoria most was not just her actions. It was the thought, would she really have treated Hannah differently if she had known she was the daughter of someone important? That thought weighed heavily on Victoria. Deep down she understood that the entire evening she had let her arrogance and self-importance guide her, turning her into someone even she did not recognize. She was no longer the confident, decisive woman she had prided herself on being, but rather someone who relied on power to look down on others. As she drove home, the consequences of her actions that night continued to weigh on her mind. The important business relationship she had been building with Laura might have completely collapsed. To Victoria, the opportunity to collaborate with Prestige was not just a lucrative deal, but also a way to solidify her reputation in elite circles. Now it seemed everything was slipping out of reach. Can I fix this? Victoria asked herself in despair. She tried to reassure herself that maybe an apology or a lavish gift would smooth things over with Laura and Hannah. But deep down she knew it was not that simple. This was not just a matter of words. It was a matter of character and how she treated others. And a superficial apology would not erase the hurt she had caused. The next morning when Victoria woke up, she felt more exhausted than ever. She had not slept much the night before, as images of the evening continued to replay in her mind. Like a broken reel, standing in front of the mirror, she saw her dark circles' intense expression. This was not the confident, powerful woman she had always prided herself on being. Victoria felt as though she had been worn down by guilt and fear of what was to come. She knew she had to face the consequences of her actions. From the night before, sending an expensive gift or a written apology would not be enough to restore the relationship, and more importantly, to make amends for her mistake. Victoria would have to face Laura and Hannah, and face herself, something she had never done before. Victoria dressed herself in a more simple and elegant outfit than usual. She did not want to give off any more wrong impressions. On her drive to the office, her mind was consumed with thoughts about how she could repair the damage. But the only thing she knew for sure was that it would not be easy. She had hurt others with her arrogance, and now to make up for it, Victoria would have to learn humility and admit her mistakes, something that had never come easily to her. As she drove to her office, Victoria's mind continued to swirl with thoughts on how to approach and make amends with Laura and Hannah. She realized that she could not just offer a shallow apology, because the wounds she had inflicted went far beyond a minor confrontation. This was about respect and dignity, something she had completely disregarded when she looked down on Hannah, simply because of her job. Sitting in her office, looking out over the skyscrapers of the city, Victoria felt lost. She had always thought that success was just about achieving big goals, signing multi-million-dollar contracts, and being at the top of admiration. But now she realized there were other values she had never considered: humility, empathy, and how she treated those around her, especially those she had dismissed. After hours of reflection, Victoria decided that the only way to make amends was to meet with Laura and Hannah face to face. She knew this would not be easy, and she had to prepare herself to face their anger or even rejection. But if she wanted to change, she had to start by admitting her mistakes, sincerely and without fear of the consequences. Victoria prepared a handwritten apology letter, clearly acknowledging her wrongs and expressing deep remorse for her actions. She not only apologized for how she had treated Hannah, but also admitted that she had let arrogance drive her behavior. Victoria knew that the letter was just a small step in the process of making things right, but it was her way of showing sincerity before the direct confrontation. In the afternoon, Victoria drove to Le Prestige, the restaurant that had witnessed the entire incident. As she stepped out of the car, she felt her heart racing, not with confidence as before, but with anxiety. She did not know how she would be received, but she knew this was necessary. It was time for Victoria to take responsibility for her actions. She entered the restaurant with a strange feeling. The place that had once felt familiar and filled with power now seemed intimidating. Victoria took a deep breath and walked to the reception desk, where a staff member stood to greet her. "Hello, I'm Victoria Anderson," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'd like to meet with Laura or Hannah, if they're available." The receptionist nodded and responded politely. I'll check if they're available right now. Please wait a moment. Victoria stood there trying to remain calm. Everything seemed to slow down in the moment of waiting. She knew the upcoming meeting could determine not only her business relationship, but also how she would be perceived as a person. This was not just about money or reputation anymore. It was about redemption and her own personal growth. Moments later, Hannah appeared from the back of the restaurant. Her expression showed a hint of surprise. Upon seeing Victoria waiting, but she quickly regained her professional composure and approached with a calm demeanor. "Good afternoon, Miss Anderson." Hannah said, her voice composed but not overly friendly. "How can I assist you?" Victoria could sense the distance in Hannah's words, which only deepened her remorse. She knew this was not the time for excuses or long explanations, but rather a time for confession. "Hannah, I'm here today to apologize." Victoria began, her voice softer than ever before. "I know what I said and did that night was unacceptable. I acted with contempt and disrespect. I'm truly sorry for making you feel belittled. That's not the person I want to be, and I hope you can accept my apology." Hannah stood still, listening to Victoria's words. Her face did not show much emotion, but her eyes revealed that she was processing the apology sincerely. After a few moments of silence, Hannah responded, her tone calm yet firm. "I appreciate you coming here and saying these things, but an apology is not everything. I've had to deal with people like you my whole life, and it's not easy. I do not expect people to change after just one apology, but I do hope you truly understand and change from within." Victoria felt the harsh truth in Hannah's words, but she did not argue. She knew that redemption could not just come through words. It required genuine action. "I completely understand that," Victoria admitted. "I do not expect immediate forgiveness, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove that I'm changing. I know I was wrong, and I'm ready to face whatever's necessary to make things right." At that moment, Laura emerged from the back. Having heard most of the conversation between two, she approached with a serious expression, but there was a gentleness in her demeanor compared to their previous encounter. "Miss Anderson," Laura said, looking directly at Victoria, "I appreciate you coming here to apologize. But as my daughter said, words are part of it, but actions are what truly matter. It will not be easy to rebuild the trust that was lost, but I believe everyone deserves a second chance if they're genuinely willing to change." Victoria nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope. She knew the road ahead would be long, but this was the first step, and for the first time in years, she felt truly ready to embark on the journey of changing herself, not just for her career, but for the person she wanted to become. After meeting with Laura and Hannah, Victoria could not stop thinking about what they had said. She realized that an apology was only the first step. There was much more to do, to prove she had truly changed. Deep down, Victoria knew that it was not just about acting differently, but about shifting her mindset and attitude, becoming someone more empathetic and understanding. Starting the following week, Victoria joined a mentorship program that Lee Prestige hosted for underprivileged youth. It was a program that Laura had mentioned during their conversation, and Victoria decided that this would be a good opportunity to not only make amends, but also learn from those around her. One Saturday morning, Victoria drove to Le Prestige again, but this time she was not coming as a high-profile customer. She dressed simply, in more comfortable and approachable attire, without the powerful image she usually projected in meetings. As she entered the restaurant, the initial sense of unfamiliarity had faded. She now felt like she belonged to a community, working to improve lives and help others. Hannah greeted Victoria at the door with a slight smile, but this time there was no suspicion or wariness in her eyes. Hannah had begun to see the sincerity in Victoria's efforts to change, and though trust was not fully restored, she was willing to give Victoria a chance to prove herself through her actions. "Good morning, Miss Anderson," Hannah said, her voice calm but gentler than before. "It looks like you're ready." Victoria smiled for the first time, feeling genuinely confident, without needing to wear the facade of power or wealth. "Yes, I'm here to learn and help. Please just call me Victoria." Hannah led Victoria into a small meeting room, where a group of young people were waiting. They were bright-eyed teenagers full of ambition, but who had faced many challenges in life. Looking at their eager and hopeful faces, Victoria felt a connection she had never experienced before. She realized these young people were not so different from her. When she was younger, driven by ambition and determination, but in far tougher circumstances. In the first few weeks, Victoria participated in the program as a mentor, helping the youth develop basic business skills. But what she did not expect was how much she would learn from them. Each of their stories carried lessons of resilience and courage. They not only inspired her, but also helped her reflect deeply on her own life. One day, Jamal, a sharp, strong-willed young man, asked Victoria, "Have you ever felt judged just because of where you came from?" That question made Victoria pause and reflect. She remembered a time when she was a young woman, with nothing but ambition and determination. Back then, she had been judged and underestimated because of her humble beginnings. But the difference was, instead of empathizing with others, she had allowed success to make her distant and arrogant. "Yes," Victoria answered honestly. "I've been in your shoes, and I understand that feeling. But what I forgot was that even when we succeed, we must never forget the struggles of those still trying to rise." And I think that's something I needed to relearn. In the weeks that followed, Victoria continued her involvement in the mentorship program, not just as a guide, but as a fellow traveler. She no longer focused solely on fixing her mistakes, but truly enjoyed the process of helping and seeing the growth of the young people. Every day working with them, she felt herself becoming a better person, not in terms of career or power, but in terms of character and compassion. One day, as Victoria was helping a small group work on a business project, Hannah unexpectedly appeared at the door. Observing her from a distance, after the mentoring session ended, Hannah approached Victoria. "You've really changed, Victoria," Hannah said, her voice gentle but sincere. "I can see that you've put a lot of heart into this, and not just to make up for what happened." Victoria paused, looking at Hannah with gratitude. "I know I still have a lot to learn, and will take time to earn back your trust and your mother's. But this program, it's changed me more than I ever thought possible." Hannah smiled, and for the first time, she did not just see Victoria as someone who had wronged her, but as someone genuinely trying to become better. "Change is not easy, but I believe you're on the right path, and I hope you keep going." Victoria nodded, feeling a weight lifted off her shoulders. This was not the end, but it was the beginning of a long journey. For the first time in her life, she felt she was truly on the right path, not for her own benefit, but to become a better person, not just in the eyes of others, but in her own eyes. Months passed since Victoria began her involvement in the mentorship program at Le Prestige. Every week, she dedicated time to helping the young people in the program, from teaching basic business skills to listening and advising them on personal matters. She gradually realized that this process was not just a way to make up for her mistake, but an opportunity to grow and become a better person. The weekly meetings at the restaurant, the stories from the youths, had all changed the way Victoria saw life and how she treated others. During this time, Hannah and Laura had slowly begun to accept Victoria's presence in the program. At first they kept their distance, but gradually they started to notice Victoria's sincerity and commitment to change. Hannah, who had once been the target of Victoria's disdain, now began to offer a light smile every time they met. Victoria sensed that she was no longer seen as an arrogant person, but as someone genuinely working to improve. One day, Laura invited Victoria to the restaurant for dinner and a conversation. It was an unexpected invitation that made Victoria both excited and nervous. She no longer thought much about whether Laura was still interested in business collaboration, because she had come to realize that the relationship she had built through the program held far more value than any contract. However, she could not help but wonder if this dinner was a sign that Laura was ready to reopen the door to a business partnership that had once been closed. As Victoria entered the prestige that evening, the elegant and cozy atmosphere of the restaurant welcomed her with a sense of familiarity she had never felt before. In the past, every time she visited, she had always felt like an important customer, someone to be served. But now, she saw the place with completely different eyes. The Prestige was not just a luxurious restaurant, but a symbol of connection, of the values, of dedication and kindness that she had come to learn. Laura was seated at a table near the window, with soft lighting gently illuminating her face, creating a warm atmosphere. When she saw Victoria approaching, Laura smiled, gesturing for her to sit down. There was no sign that this meeting would be tense or formal. Instead, it felt like a warm conversation between old acquaintances. "Good evening, Victoria." Laura began, her voice soft but serious. "Thank you for coming. I wanted to talk to you about some things I've been thinking about over the past few months." Victoria nodded, trying to keep her nerves in check. She knew this was an important moment, possibly determining the future of their relationship, both professionally and personally. She was ready to accept whatever came from this conversation, whether it was a second chance or a farewell. "I've been watching closely what you've been doing over the past few months," Laura continued, her eyes glimmering with sincerity. "Not just me, but Hannah and the staff in the program have noticed the change in how you approach life, and people were truly impressed by your perseverance and sincerity." Victoria felt her heart lighten a bit, but she remained silent, listening as Laura continued to speak. She knew that this still was not the most important part of the conversation. "When you first started participating in the program, I was not sure about your motives. I thought maybe you just wanted to make amends, or even try to win back a business opportunity. But over time, I've seen that you've truly changed. You have not just helped the young people in the program, you've also learned and bettered yourself." Victoria nodded, feeling a surge of emotion rising within her. She knew that her journey had not just been about fixing her mistakes, but about becoming a better person, learning to appreciate the value of others. Laura paused for a moment before continuing. "Victoria, I believe that everyone deserves a second chance, and you've shown that you not only want that chance, but you've worked hard to earn it. So I'd like to reopen the discussion about our potential business collaboration." Victoria looked at Laura, her heart racing with surprise and joy. She could not believe that the opportunity she thought she had lost was now being offered again. But this time, it was not just about a business deal. It was about the recognition of her efforts and the change she had achieved. "I do not know how to express my gratitude," Victoria said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I've learned so much from this experience, and I will not let you and Hannah down. I'm committed to doing everything with respect and dedication this time." Laura smiled warmly, a smile full of hope. "I believe in you, Victoria. Both Hannah and I have seen your transformation. This is not just about business. It's about the relationships and values we can bring to the community. We're looking forward to working with you in the future." The two of them continued talking about future plans and how they could merge Victoria's business with the mentorship program that Laura and Hannah had built at Prestige. The meeting no longer felt tense or formal, like their first encounter, but rather became a relaxed, intimate exchange filled with inspiration for the future. As the evening came to an end, Victoria stepped out of the restaurant with a sense of relief and hope. She knew she had overcome a difficult chapter in her life, not just to regain a business opportunity, but to rediscover her personal values. This time she would not repeat her mistakes. Instead of focusing solely on power and success, she had learned to respect and appreciate the value of everyone around her. Under the night sky, Victoria took a deep breath of the cool air, feeling the profound change inside her. She had been given a second chance, and this time she would turn it into something greater than she had ever imagined. No longer the woman who sought only personal gain, Victoria was now ready to contribute to the community, help others and build a better future. Not just for herself, but for all those she could reach. This was not the end, but merely the beginning. In the weeks and months that followed, Victoria began implementing plans to collaborate with Prestige and the mentorship program. She not only helped expand the program's reach, but also connected with other businesses to bring more opportunities to the young people involved. Her work was no longer just about making money or growing her own company. It was about creating real value for the community. Victoria began organizing business workshops for the youth, where she shared not only business strategies she had learned over the years, but also lessons about human relations, humility and compassion. Every time she saw the hopeful and ambitious faces of the young people, Victoria felt a deep happiness she had never experienced before. She also maintained close relationships with Laura and Hannah. They were no longer just trusted business partners, but close friends in life. Hannah, who had once been the target of Victoria's disdain, now became a colleague Victoria deeply respected and admired. The two worked together to develop the restaurant and the mentorship program, while learning from each other how to run a business that was not only financially successful, but also socially meaningful. One day, while sitting in her office, Victoria received a letter from one of the young people who had participated in the program. The boy named Jamal thanked Victoria for inspiring him and helping him realize his potential. Jamal had opened a small cafe in the neighborhood where he grew up, and he wrote that it was Victoria's advice about listening to and treating people well that had helped him build lasting relationships with customers and the community. Reading those words, Victoria felt her heart warm. She knew that she had not just changed her own life, but it also contributed to changing the lives of others. That was true success. Not the amount of money she earned, but the value she had created for society. One weekend evening, as the sunset painted the sky golden, Victoria stood by the large window of her home, looking out over the city. She thought about the journey she had been on, from an arrogant, cold woman to someone who appreciated the human values of empathy, learning and growth. She felt proud of the person she had become and realized that this journey had brought her more than she had ever hoped for. In the quiet atmosphere of the evening, Victoria's phone rang. It was Laura, inviting her to the Prestige for a ceremony to honor those who had contributed to the mentorship program. Victoria eagerly accepted, feeling honored and grateful to be part of something so meaningful. At the ceremony, as Victoria entered the Prestige, she felt the complete transformation of the atmosphere. From a place where she once walked in with arrogance and power, it had now become her second home. A place where she had rediscovered herself and learned how to become a better person. The laughter, the words of thanks, and the admiring gazes from the young people in the program made her heart swell with warmth and contentment. Laura and Hannah stood on stage, greeting everyone with radiant smiles. When they called Victoria's name, the room erupted in applause. She stepped onto the stage, feeling her heart filled with emotion. This was not just a ceremony of gratitude, but a recognition of her journey of transformation. From someone who cared only about personal success to someone who gave value back to others. When I began this journey, I had no idea it would change my life, Victoria said as she took the microphone, her voice warm and sincere. But thanks to the guidance of Laura, Hannah, and everyone in this program, I've learned a valuable lesson about compassion and humility. I'm incredibly grateful for the second chance I've been given, and I hope to continue spreading these values to many more people. The ceremony ended in laughter and intimate conversations. Victoria stepped outside under the starry sky. She no longer felt like the woman she used to be. No longer arrogant, no longer cold. Now she was someone who had learned to live with an open heart, appreciating the true values of life. On her way home, Victoria smiled. She knew there was still much to learn, But she also knew she had found the right direction. And from here, her life would not just revolve around achieving success, but around sharing that success with those around her. A journey full of meaning and fulfillment. Victoria's story is a testament to the power of change, compassion and redemption. A journey where anyone, no matter how lost, can find their way back if they are brave enough to face their mistakes and make amends. If Victoria's journey of change and redemption touched your heart, do not forget to hit subscribe so you will not miss out on more touching and meaningful stories that we'll be sharing. Thank you for joining us.